All right, welcome back. We're going to chat today with Barrett Sallee of Outkick, College Football Smothering Coverage, SiriusXM. Just find him all the places. Barrett, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm great. This season is flying. It seems like only yesterday I was there in Ireland drinking a bunch of beers,
Yeah,
watching Florida State and Georgia Tech.
that was the peak of the season before it
It,
really even
it
got started.
was, but there were a lot of beers that were
Yeah,
consumed by both fan bases.
yeah. The Guinness was. I've had it a couple of times here in the States, and it really isn't the same. So
It's not the same. No, it legitimately does not taste the same.
yeah, it ruined it for me. I was actually in Tallahassee the next weekend at a bar on Labor Day weekend because we played Boston College,
Mhm.
and I ordered one, and I was just like, I think I'll just take an IPA.
Right, exactly.
It's just terrible. So,
Yep.
well, I actually reached out to you before the big news happened at Florida State, and so the
Right.
direction of this is going to go pretty different than what I originally had planned. So, done a little bit more work to kind of chat about this. But coaching changes in season. Obviously, Florida State fired their offense and defensive
Mhm.
coordinators and their wide receiver coach. What are your thoughts on coaching changes in season? Fans have been clamoring for this, but just give us your big picture national take on this.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, historically anyway, if you start getting rid of coaches mid-season, there's a reason for it, and it's not what Mike Norvell said, and it's not what any coach says. It's that there's pressure from above, whether it be from an athletic director or a booster or NIL folks or whatever. There's pressure by somebody or some group that matters, that can be part of a decision making process, and that might even just be boosters that want to have their voice heard and are kind of going out on a limb just to try to make themselves seem relevant in that whole world. But no matter what happens, there's something going on. So is this a lot like what happened at Florida? Before the end of last season, yeah. I mean, Billy Napier was on the hottest seat in the country going into this season because of some things that happened last season. Um, and so that's where Mike Norvell is. He knows this is unacceptable. Florida State knows this is unacceptable. And it's got to change because sustaining success is something that every head coach needs to do, that every elite program has to find a way to reach. So it shows that there's some sort of behind the scenes panic or pressure that is it's a little different now, right? I think a lot of us are like, "Oh my God, Billy Napier or not Billy Napier, Mike Norvell, what the hell was that?" And then now it's clear that there's more to it.
Yeah. Mike has always been thought of, and even by the fan base, as an offensive guy, and even Alex getting fired, still it was Mike's offense. And so Mike
Right,
has kind
right.
of owned up to that. And so, the idea though, in my mind, is this is probably a pretty good sign that he's going to hire someone to maybe take over those offensive responsibilities. Like, do you think that's
Right.
kind of a need at this point? Are you looking to up your game in sports betting? Meet OddsJam, your ultimate ally in the world of data-driven wagering. With over 260 sportsbook under its belt, OddsJam is the go-to platform for savvy bettors. Here's how it works. OddsJam's arbitrage tool scans the market in real time, spotting differences in betting lines across various sportsbooks. This means you can lock in risk-free profits by betting on both sides of the market. But that's not all. OddsJam also provides positive EV calculators to optimize your bets and a handy bet tracker to monitor your profits. By using OddsJam, you're not just betting smarter, you're betting responsibly. And here's the kicker: they offer a 7-day free trial. Ready to give it a shot? Use code CFA, that's College Football Addiction, for a 35% discount on your first payment, either monthly or yearly. Secure your bets with confidence and make informed decisions with OddsJam.
Yes. The last thing though that Florida State or Mike Norvell or whoever needs is to get like in a flip-flop situation, like Gus Malzahn at Auburn. It was like Gus Malzahn's calling plays, Rhett Lashley's calling plays. Gus Malzahn's got you just kind of went back and forth trying to figure out or trying to make changes in ways that really weren't responsible and didn't make sense. So with Mike, it's all about finding somebody you trust and somebody who will allow you to actually take your hands off of some things, right? That's always a concern when coaches start calling plays, because there are a lot of times where you just sort of have to step back
Yeah.
and let things go and trust the guys that you've hired. And for a lot of people, there's either an ego involved, which I don't think that's the case with Mike Norvell, but a lot of times there's an ego involved. The pressure is too much to you want to make sure, hey, I'm making X amount of dollars, I got to do this myself. It comes to a point where it is responsible to sort of become the CEO, and it does seem like that might be the case now.
It seems like a lot of the trend just in college football too. Like it's not just an FSU thing, but most coaches are doing that. Not all, right? But it
Yeah.
seems like that's becoming more and more and more of a trend. There's just too much going on with NIL and the portal and just everything that happens within football to then say, well, I'm going to do this too.
Hmm.
Do you think that, so how much of an impact will winning between 1 and 3 games this year? I mean, it's still Florida State, right? So it's still a brand and a logo, but winning 1 to 3 games this year, and then also just understanding that Mike's seat is definitely much warmer than it has been. Will that make the hiring process harder, or is the name Florida State still enough to attract pretty elite talent from a coaching staff?
Yeah, Florida State, the name, the brand, the helmet, that's fine, right? It's not that you can't find qualified coaches. It's that some of the interest level changes because just every school, every power school is comfortable for some people, right? I just mentioned Rhett Lashley at SMU, right? Now I know SMU and Florida State are in the same conference, but historically, you would say, and Rhett's going to be one of the top guys out there this cycle. Historically, you said, oh, hell yeah, he'd take Florida State over SMU. Why? Why now? Right? He can
Yeah.
win at an elite level. I think he's going to make the playoff this year. He's got the money, and and he can make the facilities great. They already are. But, the difference between a top 5 and a top 75 job has changed dramatically. It's all about comfort level. So, and honestly, I think that's kind of why Mike stayed at Florida State last year when Alabama came calling. It's like, why would I go step into that pressure cooker
Yeah.
when I can get all of this money where I currently am with what we thought at the time was a program that he could have stability with? That's just, it's hard to sort of predict who and where and what situations fit for different coaches.
Yeah. I was going to ask you this, and obviously Mike is, I don't want to say removed off the hot seat, but like making changes in season, it's pretty clear that he'll be back next year. And I thought it was pretty clear
Yeah.
that he would be back next year, regardless of what happened yesterday. But I was going to ask you this before, so I still kind of want to get your take on it. Mike's obviously got a huge buyout of $65 million this year. It'll be like 56 next year. It decreases by like 9 a year. At what point does the amount of money you would lose in revenue, whether that be through NIL, through booster donations, through ticket sales, whatever, when does that start to factor in? And man, okay, we're going to lose $9 million a year from this buyout, but man, we're losing X just because we ain't selling tickets. Nobody's supporting. Like, is that how real of a concern is that if things don't turn around in the very near future?
Yeah, it's a concern. I think in the past it's been like, okay, you have to look at, okay, X amount drops off. It's just a budget thing, right? You look at an Excel spreadsheet. Are you in the red or are you in the black? Whatever. Now I think it's a situation where if it starts to become any issue, you go ahead and pull the plug. Now you look at Mike's buyout, and it's like you said, exorbitant. But I don't think those buyouts matter really much at all anymore. Because if you just get stuck with a dude because you can't fire him, like you said, eventually people are going to stop coming to games. You're stop going to get recruits. Like, you just pony up the check because you're still going to get money. You might be at a deficit for a year and a half. It's still going to be fine. So the buyout number is high, but I always say, I think schools are fine paying it, even if it's a lot of money, and B, they're not going to pay the whole thing anyway. Like,
Yeah.
legal billable hours are always undefeated, and you get a bunch of lawyers in a room, they're going to negotiate something that's fair for all parties.
Yeah. Florida State, no no stranger to paying billable hours right
Lawsuits.
now. Yeah, on another side of things, what's your? I'll ask you this, and we'll wrap. What's your? What's your confidence level, or where? Last year, everybody was convinced that Florida State had found their guy, even through all the bad stuff with the snub and the playoff and everything else. Like they had found their guy. What is your confidence level of Norvell's chances to turn it around?
Man, I thought he could sustain success. Like going into Ireland, I was like, yeah, they're going to make the playoff. I don't care that they lost a lot of players. Mike's a great coach, and I still think he is. But I have my concerns. The thing is, I think he's good enough and smart enough to look in the mirror and say, I can't do this the way I've been doing it, and make a bunch of changes. And I think, firing assistants midseason when there's a little bit of pressure certainly is a little bit indicative of that. I think he can turn it around. He's got to hit the portal hard. I think it's clear after what we saw that last year that Florida State becoming a portal school like Ole Miss or Oklahoma, like that's the way to go about it, and that's fine. He's just got to target better guys. And then I think maybe realize, hey, you know what? We can be a portal school, but we got to devote just as much attention to high school recruiting as well. Because it did feel like he didn't know exactly what the identity of the program needed to be. Maybe he swung too much toward portal and not enough towards high school. There's a sweet spot in there somewhere. And I think he's got to find it, but he can't swing all the way back to the high school side because you got to find the right mix. And I think he'll do that.
Yeah. Florida State fans will have probably caught your ode to Lashley and SMU and probably be happy with the fact that you have them in the playoff as to what that may mean for another rival.
Dude,
but,
they're going to be good. They're going to be good.
They've been fun. And, Rhett was fun at ACC kickoff, just talking kind of through all that stuff. And, hats off to them for getting it done. Barrett, where can people follow you? Where can they find more of your work?
Yeah, college football smothered and covered. If you're watching this or listening to this, you know how to do the podcast thing, but it's on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all that stuff. Outkick for the written content, SiriusXM, throughout the week on Channel 84, whenever they need me, and definitely on Sunday morning, the therapy session that Tom Luganville and I hold, where basically people get to call in and tell us how much they hate their team or love their team, and there's really no in between.
Yeah, zero. There's never been an in between with college football fanatics. So, man, I appreciate you for taking some time and chatting with us.
My pleasure. Thanks, DJ.